So, I think Raditz here has got some explaining to do with this newfound caretaker. How will the old man take this? Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now this story is something of which had been a bit of a surprise actually. The idea of Raditz coming to Earth has always been something of a curious topic here, but most of the questions and requests I've gotten over the years about this subject are to do with him being with Goku on their journey. Whilst that does sound all well and good, I wanted to make things a little bit more Radish-like in quality. So instead of both the children of Guinea and Bardock getting to go to Earth, we're going to be having a bit of a role reversal. Kakarot will be the one to be raised by the Freeza Force and Prince Vegeta, whereas Raditz will get to be the adopted son of Grandpa Gohan and live a more peaceful childhood on Earth without the worry of the tyrant-like emperor. In the first part of this story, we showcase the differences that would take place to make this story work. Raditz didn't get to go on his mission with Vegeta and so stayed home because of a little stomach bug. However, that gave him a chance to flee alongside his brother. We took some elements from the Broly movie here in their escape and had it so that Raditz went with Kakarot in his own Saiyan pod to escape the detection from the Freeza Force that was circling up above to ensure no monkeys fled and that all were accounted for, returning for the Emperor's message. However, thanks to Raditz having a battle power, they were caught, and, thanks to his nature, Raditz chose to flee and left his brother to his own destiny. Those un-Saiyan-like survival instincts making him out to be a selfish soul indeed. Now on Earth, and his brother in the clutches of Freeza, Raditz had been taken in by Grandpa Gohan, having accepted the gent's offer of food and shelter. Despite this though, he wasn't out of the woods just yet. Jarko, the Galactic Patrolman, was after Raditz, but let's remember here, Jarko isn't the most diligent super elite going. So, with Grandpa Gohan's aiding Raditz's cause, Jarko chose to look the other way and left Raditz on Earth under the care of the old man. But that also meant that the boy had to be a little more honest about where he came from and what his original purpose was. Oh dear. Raditz looked very sheepish when he was being questioned by Grandpa Gohan, the old Earthling that had taken him in. He hadn't expected to feel this level of nervousness for a weakling of a being. This guy. These Earthlings were nothing compared to him, and Raditz knew that he himself was quite a weakling. He was not the strongest of examples of Saiyans. However, his internal instincts were screaming at him to not harm this one. This one had kept him safe and had given him good food. Probably some of the best grub he had ever tasted, in fact. Saiyans weren't really known for being culinary masters. I mean, of course, his mother was an exception to some extent, but of course he would say that. So all this new stuff was very welcome. But, most importantly, Raditz had felt safe. And feeling safe was not something you could say in the times of the Freeza Force, if you were a Saiyan, being around even their own homeworld. Instead of being angry, deceived, or betrayed, Gohan just took it on board, what Raditz had to say. All of this was very interesting to hear. He wasn't scared of this one at all. Sure, Raditz was a little bit of a hothead and had a temper, but he was good company. He had some odd quirks for sure, but since he was not from Earth and hadn't caused harm to him or anyone else or any creatures, he didn't feel threatened despite his Saiyan heritage. "I can tell, dear boy, that you are nothing like those Saiyans you speak of." Raditz looked surprised. "I'm not? How?" "Indeed, from what you said, Saiyans are supposed to be cold, cruel, and ruthless with planets such as this one. But you've been none of those things. I'm not afraid of you, Raditz." However, Raditz wasn't entirely soothed by these words. But that was the point for Gohan. He was trying to console the boy.
"Me not being like a true Saiyan is not how things should be. I'm a disgrace, a coward, never wanting to take risks. Father hoped for better from me. I was to escort our Prince Vegeta on a mission before things went south. But I got sick and never got to go. In fact,
He trailed off. He didn't feel like mentioning to the old man that he had simply abandoned his younger brother to the tyrannical emperor. That was a bridge too far right now for Raditz. He told the old man enough. From my point of view, you being unlike Saiyans is a blessing. You survived to live another day. You managed to break free, and because of that, you can live a life as you see fit. You are your own person, and of course, there are things we need to unpack along the way, but so long as you remain good in nature, that Jarko fellow may allow you to stay.
Raditz thought about this for a moment. Even if he didn't feel truly at home here yet, being on Earth did sound like a much better prospect than being detained by the Galactic Patrol. From what his elders had told him many years ago, the Patrol were a bunch of toadies, do-gooders, and pen pushers, the complete opposite of Saiyans. Nothing got done for months on end, and Saiyans that were stupid enough to be captured by them never got out. Destined to live it out in prisons, never to be released, always being processed. As far as they were concerned, a locked-up Saiyan was the perfect Saiyan. Speaking of prisons, actually, young Kakarot had spent the last few months being quite a stubborn toddler. Despite his power not being all that great in comparison to other Saiyan children he had seen, Freeza definitely saw something in this one. I'm sure the boy's brother may have gotten away, but in his opinion, the younger ones were far easier to manipulate to his own ends. Let that other one flee. He'll die.
I can expect great things from you, little monkey.
Kakarot would hiss and look utterly sickened at the sight of Freeza. But this didn't anger Freeza at all. He found it cute. He loved the sensation of being something that terrified Saiyans. With their homeworld gone and only a handful of these apes left, he was their god, effectively, from now on. Their future was in his hands. Oh, this feeling was marvelous.
You may detest me now, child, but you will come to like me in the fullness of time. For now, I think it's wise for you to be around your own kind, snuggled together in companionship.
He picked up Kakarot by the scruff of his neck and took him to the quarters of a young Saiyan that was also in his care.
"Oh, Vegeta," Freeza said with a sing-song voice, "I brought a friend for you. Do take good care of it, unlike the last one."
He dropped Kakarot in front of the prince, and without another word, slunk out of the room, the door slamming behind him. And Vegeta, he immediately took his anger out on Kakarot. This thing had been the cause of his most recent distress. All of Frieza's attention had been placed squarely on this low-class runt. His power had been barely in the double figures when he had arrived, this one. Why would this thing capture the Emperor's interest, despite his battle power being so low, having no meaningful value? But it didn't matter right now, because he was even breathing the same air as he. How dare he? It meant that Vegeta was being neglected. He went out on far fewer missions, forgotten by Freeza. And now, Freeza was pawning this thing off on him, to be a caretaker of it. No. He kicked, punched, and screamed at Kakarot for hours in between moments of self-reflection. Since his planet had been destroyed by that freak meteorite, his life had turned into a joke. Now no longer being prepared to become King Vegeta IV, all he could do now was lord it over a few stragglers, weaklings, minions that had been with him on that fateful day. What a joke.
"Vegeta, calm down!"
Nappa said with fervour when he had entered, after walking by the prince's room just now and heard all this commotion.
"Freeza told you to look after young Kakarot, not kill him!"
"This runt has ruined my life, Nappa. Freeza doesn't give me a second glance anymore. All because he sees something in this thing. All I see is a punching bag that doesn't talk back."
It was true. Kakarot had yet to gain the power of speech since arriving on Frieza's ship. Freeza quite liking this way of one-way conversations for the moment. I mean, of course, he knew that this little one would have to talk eventually. He could learn that, though, in time. It could wait. Nappa picked Kakarot up and placed him on his shoulder, the young boy clinging desperately onto Nappa for dear life.
"You can't be so reckless, Vegeta. We're few in number now. We need to look after each other if we are to survive."
"What's the point, Nappa? We're gonna die out eventually. No female survived from what I've heard."
That doesn't matter, Vegeta. All we have is what we got right now. If you kill Kakarot, you're letting Freeza win. He's playing you. Vegeta stopped. Was this all a test? A test to see if he was worthy of being something more? Yeah, that must be it. That must be why Frieza's put so much attention in this thing. It was all to test Vegeta. The prince told Nappa to leave and take the runt with him, to which he did. Nappa consoled the boy and vowed to keep a closer eye on him. It's all right, little guy. I'll help you toughen up so that Freeza can't make fun of you so much. Kakarot was sniffling but nodded, understanding this, as he remained holding on to Nappa's neck. Also, it'll be real handy if you could talk. We'll work on that. Back on Earth, Raditz and Grandpa Gohan's relationship had gone from strength to strength since the Saiyan revelation. The most important thing being the fact that the old man does not die under a great ape's foot. He does not get squished. Since he had now known about Saiyans through and through from Raditz, he could tell him what the moon means to them. So Gohan took great care to stay out of his way when Raditz tried to control his giant monkey form. He wanted to do that. The old man had offered to perhaps cut off the tail so he would never have to worry about such things ever again, but the boy point blank refused.
I may be a scaredy cat of a Saiyan, but this,
he pointed to his tail,
is the only thing I have left that reminds me of where I came from. To cut it off would be...
Gohan got the message, and he always made sure after that to pack a bag for Raditz whenever he went out to train, to take with him, which contained some glasses, some food, and a change of clothes whenever he went out to train. Raditz had had some basic training of this Zaru power from his father. It was very, very simple though. They had only just started, in fact, when all of the stuff that happened on Planet Vegeta went down. He could, right now, just about keep his mind together when in this form. Enough to not run amok in a blazed daze about the dense Paozu forests, but he couldn't do much else. He could stay in place and perhaps look around for a long time, just getting used to being in this form. But months passed and his training did improve. With the combination of a good diet, a calm life, and sometimes some encouragement from Gohan after his training sessions, Raditz had managed to do it. He had managed to gain some sort of control of his giant monkey form. Of course, he wasn't going to be a master of it just yet, he was still a boy, but he was not going to be a liability or indeed anything bad either. A danger to anyone if he were to transform on anybody. He'd be okay. This came to a head when Raditz, in his giant ape form, ran back home and shouted to his caretaker in delight.
Grandpa, look what I can do!
He jumped up and down and shook the ground beneath him.
Isn't that great? I can use this power now!
That's great, Raditz, but whatever for? Raditz scratched his furry head with his giant finger.
I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. But it's cool, right?
Oh yes, very cool. He laughed and asked Raditz to keep to the deeper forest for now, as he would like to keep his house in one place. Raditz kept on training this power, and soon legends would spread about, in fact, from the nearby villages about a supposed giant beast that prattled on like a kid or something. He didn't cause any damage or anything, he just talked like mad and was huge. As a result, they called this mythical creature the Babbling Beast. Clearly, as you could tell, Raditz was gaining confidence in himself and in no mood to be causing harm to this planet. As for Jarko, he had been paying minimal observation to Earth in the time he had confronted Grandpa Gohan and Raditz. Oh, that paperwork he spoke of? What paperwork? That was merely a cover to make him look important. Jarko had no intention to engage in any red tape activities here. He was banking on the old man to do his job for him, and thankfully, the human done come out good.
Ah, yes, 'tis the mark of my keen super elite eye. Oh, I'm so smart when it comes to delegation.
Indeed, Jarko was very good at passing the buck and delegating simple tasks to those beneath him. Jarko, quite frankly, is the very dictionary definition of pulling rank. As the patrolman kicked back and let the humans do the heavy lifting for him, Raditz grew up to become a big, strong boy. Gohan had been amazed with how tall Raditz had gotten. Raditz had been about 8 or 9 years old when he arrived on Earth, much older than Kakarot was when he arrived on Earth in the original. But by the time we get to age 750, the beginning of the Dragon Ball as we know it, Raditz had come of age. 18 years old, and almost ready to head off on his own adventures.
the old man having done his job. He had managed to turn the boy into a very caring, albeit daft and pompous soul. He hadn't forgotten his Saiyan heritage though, for sure, but he definitely loved being a person who lived on Earth. He loved this world. His power had always been something of note though for Gohan, but he never pushed Raditz to train like crazy, since, well, there was no need to. It was just so peaceful. Let him have fun. What the boy had needed was a place to find himself, in fact. And find himself, he had done, in spades. Grandpa Gohan congratulated his adoptive son and said to him that the next part of his journey was about to begin.
I think it's time I introduced you to my martial arts friend, Muten Roshi.
Martial arts, eh? Well, what's that, Grandpa? The giant of a, now man, looked curious at the idea of martial arts.
You know you've been training in your ape form?
Raditz nodded.
Well, this is more of that, only in your normal body. You'll get stronger, and perhaps, maybe, your ape form will too.
Raditz looked very keen at this.
You think it'll work?
Gohan nodded.
You have tons of potential, my boy, but you need to focus it more if you are to become a truly great warrior. Think about it.
Indeed, Raditz did think about this. However, something came about which knocked this offer out of his mind for the time being. As he was walking about the dust tracks nearby his house just to pass the time, he was hit by a car, a Renault 5 Turbo. However, the car bore the brunt of the damage here, but it was still enough to knock Raditz over. The occupant clambered out and looked to see what she had hit, only to find a big, strapping lad. But still, a car was totaled.
Hey, watch where you're going! You wrecked my car!
Raditz got up, rubbing his back, and launched into a tirade.
Your car? You almost wrecked my back, you buffoon! Buffoon? Of all the rude and...
Bulma stopped to take a good look at the lad. Oh my, he was a tall one. He'd stood up by this point. He looked quite well built too. Indeed, instantly, her mood changed.
I'm so sorry, sir. Are you hurt?
Raditz, nonplussed and confused by this change of mood, replied.
Well, no. I just didn't see it coming, is all.
Bulma was amazed. A car crash had left no damage on this guy? What was this thing?
Are you hurt?
Raditz mumbled, him blushing a little, realizing whom he was talking to. It was a girl, and Grandpa Gohan had always told him to be nice to ladies, even if they were a little crass in their words.
No, I'm all right.
Bulma swooned.
Since you've totally wrecked my wheels, accidentally I'm sure,
she added,
can you help me with something?
Oh? What's that?
I'm looking for something, and it appears to be not too far from here. Can you walk with me? I hear it's awfully dangerous to be walking alone in these forests.
Bulma was now slinking over to Raditz's side, herself sliding her arm into the crook of his. Raditz was very much beet red by now. Or should I say, radish red.
Sure. I've nothing better to do.
He trailed off, and with that, the two walked off in pursuit of the unbeknownst Dragon Ball. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. So what do you folks think? Do you think this might lead to a rather different romance to what you expected? What might this adventure undertake with Raditz at the helm? Leave a comment below, and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!